Linux Out Loud is firing up our microphones, connecting those headphones as we search the community for themes to expound upon. We keep the banner friendly, the conversation mostly on topic, and have fun doing it. This week we are spouting off about all the hardware. Let's get into episode 75. So with me is my fantastic only other co-host right now, because I get a lot of flack for not showing up. Apparently Nate has this problem as well now too. It must be something between us, because Wendy always shows up.
Yeah, I'm always here. You can rely on me. But Nate's probably busy doing something. I know last time he was gone for a while, he was hunting Pokemon, so maybe he's off on the hunt again.
Nah, I was gonna say, as much as I know, the new job's probably keeping Nate busy. So, like, as much flack as I always enjoy poking at Nate, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for once.
Once. Maybe just this once.
So, how are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing pretty gosh dang good, and this show is definitely all about the hardware. And I've recently picked up some new hardware. So, see, I've got no wire. Woohoo, no wire on my headphones this week. And I've been consistently having a wire. Not that wired isn't horrible, though there are times when, especially when Nate's here and you guys are talking about stuff, and I'm like, gotta run to the bathroom. Instead of stopping the show, I just go, but I can hear what's going on, and it's not that big of a deal. That's really, really hard to do when you're wired. And I've been using a Wi-Fi dongle for, I don't know, forever. But since we built the kids' computer, they've been stealing my Wi-Fi dongle, and I've been on my own. So unless I need it for a very short period of time, it's been in on the living room system for the kids to use. And for other reasons as well, I decided it was time to solve this issue with not having Bluetooth. And I was also needing a Wi-Fi card. Like I said, I will talk to you about that later. But I'd originally ordered some USB Wi-Fi adapters, got them here, and it didn't work. And I was like, crap, I should have done more research, which ones are going to work in Linux and which ones aren't. I really don't want to have to install a driver. And with the ones I had, I saw some, they were TP-Link, so I'm guessing they were Realtek.
Which they stopped supporting at 4.4 for the kernel. At least 8
Yay!
kernel. So everything, speaking from experience, everything's out of kernel form now, which is madly annoying, because then if it doesn't build, especially on Arch...
Yeah, you're in trouble, and I really don't want to deal with that. And so I went ahead and sent them back and started looking at another solution, Wi-Fi cards specifically. And I came across a form, one of the help forms, where somebody else was asking, what Wi-Fi card do I use to get to work for Linux? And they were saying Intel. Get Intel ones, and specifically the AX200 or the AX210s. So I started looking into those, and there was so many different options with these Intel ones, whether you were getting them for PCIe or a different way of connecting them. There was lots of different options, and the ones that I ended up coming across and buying are the Wi-Fi 6E AX210 chipsets. These have not only Wi-Fi as part of them, but they also have a built-in Bluetooth part of these. And I was like, this is so cool, because if I get one for my system and I get one for the kids' system, then we're no longer dealing with Wi-Fi dongles, and our Bluetooth should be way better than it currently is, because to be fair, with that dongle that I had, Bluetooth was a little bit sketchy. They showed up yesterday, and I was thinking I was going to have to clean the kids' computer too. They showed up, opened up the kids' computer, which has been set up since spring of this year. And it was actually really pretty gosh dang clean inside. Popped in the Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, fired it back up, and yep, everything works. You had Bluetooth from the beginning. It was seeing my Wi-Fi network, no big deal. Didn't have to do anything to it. It just worked. And then I went to install the chip in my system, and I should have my butt kicked because my computer was disgusting. I knew it was bad. I knew it was dirty. I knew I needed to clean it, but I had it kind of tucked in the corner. So my main monitor I'm standing in front of right now, and the way I had my desk arranged before, my tower was actually back behind that monitor. I've had to do some switching, trying to make cameras and lighting and stuff work better. That's a whole different story. I didn't put it back in that corner because obviously I didn't clean it when I was supposed to because it was too hard to get to. I took a picture of the dirt, and no, I will not share that because I am incredibly embarrassed about the state that my system was in. So that's all cleaned out. The chip is installed, and once I was able to fire it up, it just worked. So while I'm currently not running an Intel system in general, I am so thankful for the stuff that Intel's done and what they have put into the kernel. So it was just a one-stop, have the PCIe card, plug it in, put the antennas on the back, and I'm good to go.
Speaking as someone who kind of went through a similar issue, before I got rid of my tower, like I built myself tower. I had similar issues where a kernel update, like the Wi-Fi dongle Bluetooth adapter thing that I had just stopped working. It just wouldn't work anymore. Didn't matter how much you tried it. So I ended up going the same route you did. I went with the PCIe Intel cards, and yeah, it's kind of gangly seeing the antenna stick out the back a little bit, but if you have it, like if you're an aesthetics person, I'm just saying. Which is weird because I'm usually all about, make it look pretty. But
right.
For me, it was just one of those, it was the lowest barrier to entry because I was like, well, I know Intel does all this stuff for Linux. So I was like, well, here we go. Might as well try it. And you know what? It was a fantastic experience because literally I plugged that card in, the same experience you had. All the stuff that I couldn't connect to before, but I could see, all worked. And it was like, oh,
awesome.
hey, type in my esoteric password, and off I go. That was it. There was no kernel stuff I needed to do. There was no like knowing like, oh, is it is it an RTK 82 whatever Realtek thing,
right?
Like is
yes,
like what I'm dealing with the Atari VCS stuff, like as an example. So
yeah.
I definitely understand the kind of the frustration that can happen with that. So that's really cool that you were able to get that particular issue straightened out and whatnot. And thanks to Intel specifically for making those in the kernel.
Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely amazing. And if you are building a computer, if you need Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and you want it just built into the system, not a dongle, because at this point, my USB spots on my computer are prime real estate. I don't have room to have extra dongles hanging out anyway. So this was an amazing way to get exactly what I needed and in a plug and play fashion. So if you need a Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip, I highly recommend using the Intel ones. Super sweet in Linux.
If you have a laptop or whatever, generically, I'm not saying always because, a lot of OEMs like glue and stuff nowadays, unfortunately, and screws and opening things to, break it, you open it when you try to open it kind of stuff. Definitely look at the Intel. I think it's essentially like the M2230 sized Wi-Fi adapters as well, because Intel makes those, because I've looked at replacements for certain internal computers. But if USB is your only alternative for whatever reason, that's just what it is. There's a Wi-Fi adapter that's AC, I think it's 1300, if I remember. It's a Cuddy AC 1300. But it gives you out of the box experience.
Nice.
And it runs like maybe $15, give or take. So it's not super expensive. So
Yeah.
I do have a link to that I'll put that in the show notes for Amazon and stuff. It
Perfect.
you can usually find it cheaper. They usually have them like refurbed for like $7. Like you can get some really killer deals for that. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm just saying what my experience is on Garuda. So take that with a grain of salt. If because it uses different things. So I'm just saying, but so but from my experience, what I've used it on, it just kind of works out of the box, and I don't have to fight and fuss with it and all the other nonsense that I've had to in the past. So, yeah, I definitely understand that frustration though. So, how much did those cards cost you?
They were just under $30 a piece, so still
That's
not
not,
bad.
yeah, for internal hardware for like a desktop, that's super cheap
Hmm.
actually, because I think I paid close to 50 for the one I bought when I still had my tower. So that's actually a really good deal, honestly.
Come down, yeah, come down
Yeah.
quite a bit
So
since then, which is awesome. But you are definitely dropping some money on some refurb hardware here. You picked up a new to you phone. It's a new phone, refurbished. I have never heard of this brand before. So when you shared it in our team Discord chat, I was a little curious. I had to go look up some specs. You've now unboxed it. You have your SIM card in it. How's it working? What do you think?
So, for those that don't know, essentially the short version is my prior phone was a Blue Bold N2. Screen and everything still works, sort of. The digitizer on the screen, however, does not work. Just, I don't know what happened. Like, there's no crack in the screen. Just like, I dropped it, picked it up, went to poke at it, I've tried everything, just doesn't work no more. I was like, short version, I really actually like the phone overall. I haven't had it long enough to give like a full like take on the actual device, but there are nice things. I know Nate abhors AMOLED screens to no end. This thing is super bright. I'm not gonna lie. Performance for the most part has been pretty snappy. I was a little worried because I was on 8 gigs of RAM, and Android and RAM are kind of the more RAM is better for Android, and I'll put it that way.
It's a lot like Windows. They're a bit of a RAM hog, so if the more you've got that buffer zone, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So it has 6 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of like internal storage that ships with it, and it supports a SD card. But it also has this weird thing that not a lot of phones know nowadays. It's got that port up on the top that I think takes a lot of courage to add to a phone nowadays, as opposed to living that dongle life. So
I have missed mine so much. That's one of the things that when I went from the Motorola phones that we'd been using, the Z line, which they no longer made, which is part of the reason why we jumped shipped from the Z line, to my OnePlus, I super missed my phone part. So I was actually using one of the old phones for quite a while as my book phone because I do listen to audiobooks at night when I can't sleep. And I used that one until the battery was like, I'm going to explode if you don't stop using me. So I was forced to stop using that one and forced to get a dongle. So now I have one. I don't love it. I would love, absolutely love to have a headphone jack again. I don't understand why they were getting rid of them.
so the short version is this was a refurb, as you had mentioned. I did not buy this off specifically Amazon or any other direct from, well, actually, that's the kicker. It is directly from the manufacturer. This refurb is directly from the manufacturer via eBay. I had a very strict budget. I was going to go with the upgraded Blue and Bold N3. They had it for 199 bucks as an introductory price for the new launch. However, when I went to go buy it, it was $250. I was like, no. So this is like very much like PC shopping or computer shopping, hardware shopping. You make your compromises. So I was looking at the spec overall, and I was like, okay, yeah, there's the trade-offs. It's like headphone jack, cool. SD card, Cool. Good size storage internally. Awesome. No stupid camera bump. It's flush with the actual phone.
That is even harder to find than a headphone jack now, I think.
It is. So aesthetically for me, that made this much more pleasing to me. Now, it comes with the kind of the crappy, gel foam case and stuff, but whatever. But overall, the performance has been pretty good. It's got the always on display, which I kind of like. It's a very old school kind of Motorola. I believe it was the Moto X that was one of the first ones to actually have that one. They did a lot of the hey Google and set time alarms and all that crap.
I think so. I had a Moto X.
So, man, that's making me feel old now when it comes to phones. Overall, I've enjoyed it thus far. There's some nice little touches. It doesn't come with a lot of bloatware, but like certain Google crap stuff that I don't use is really annoying because you can't disable it and you can't uninstall it. So it's like there's just certain things that they have that you can't get rid of, but like they defaultly ship with like Facebook and defaultly ships with like Netflix. But the nice thing, and I'll give them credit to this, you can uninstall that crap and it's not hard locked to the actual phone. So I will give them credit on that. It just comes with a lot of Google stuff that I personally don't use, so that it kind of annoying. Updates. I don't know what the security update is because I haven't actually looked at it. I do know it's up to Android 12 and it is supposed to be getting Android 13. So for me, my Blue Bold M2 was stuck on Android 11. They were giving me security update. They were giving me security updates, so I'll give them credit where it's due. But on the same note, I would also like some of the newer features and functions at some point.
Right.
But overall, I enjoy the phone. I like the build. I like the presentation and all that kind of stuff. Overall, it's good. The fact that it was under $200, it was 100. I think it was 191. Like after everything, for at least what I paid for it.
Oh.
And camera people, like I don't know the aperture like off the top of my head and all that stuff, but like a 50 megapixel, then it's a 16 megapixel super, then it's got the two macros, which I don't care about. And then the front is a 32 selfie. 4K video for recording.
Wow.
Which is basically the biggest thing. And then there's like a bunch of pro modes that almost rival kind of a Sony phone from what I've seen in the camera app. So really, really cool stuff like that. That's a lot of why I really picked it, and the price. So
and the price.
Yes, it's a phone from 2021. I'm not unaware of that, but the phone I got prior was from late 2022, and it's always a compromise. Like, what's your budget? I would love to get insert new iPhone 15. Oh no, not iPhone, but we've gone down. Matt has gone down the iPhone and iPad and Apple ecosystem route before, and while I can survive in it, boy, is it painful as a multi-platform user.
Yeah, that's a hard no. Yeah, that's definitely a hard no from you.
But overall, for a $200 phone, and with the update process, I'm not. With the fact that they're giving at least 2 updates to it, I'm a little more inclined to look at TCL phones now. Now, for those that don't know, TCL phones are it's from TCL, the guys that make TVs and monitors. So they put a real big emphasis on the screen. Ironically, I mean, why would a TV company do that? But
no.
But they also made a lot of the phones for like Alcatel. They made the BlackBerry Android phones. Those were all rebranded TCL phones. So they are not unfamiliar with like the phone aspect of stuff. They are just going in with their own brand now. So like the 20 series is like kind of like their upper mid range. So like it's almost hitting the flagship sets of stuff, but it's not at that price. Cause like when this came out, I think this was $500. which in the grand scheme of phones nowadays, that's actually
Yeah,
pretty
that's not
middling.
bad in the grand scheme of phones. And I had never heard of them before, like I'd mentioned that I had heard of them in the TV market and the monitor market, but I'd never heard of them in the phone market. We were talking a little bit before we started the show, and Magneto is in need of a phone again. His is coming up on 2 years old. Magneto is hard on phones, and it is definitely starting to have some issues. So this is one of the ones that I might throw his direction. I am not picking out Magneto's phone. I did that last time, and he has not been a fan of the OnePlus. So I will drop him a few options, and then he can pick his own phone, decide which one he wants. That's totally on him. But I like the price range. One of the things that we loved about the Motorola phones that we were getting is they felt top tier, but we weren't paying a top tier price for them. And I would like to find something else. OnePlus used to be that way, but they're definitely not that way anymore. You are paying a top tier price for their phones, and I just don't like dishing out that much money for a phone. It doesn't seem right, especially where there are lines out there where you can get awesome specs, great functionality, and not have to deal with that massive price tag.
Yeah, because if you look at phones like, and these aren't phones that generically come to the U.S., but if you look at phones like the Poco phones, as an example, like the Poco, I think the biggest one that came over had a very old school OnePlus mentality where it was top spec, but like the design was it was utilitarian at best. I think a lot of that's missing nowadays when it comes to like the phone market specifically. I know another phone that has probably not meant for Magneto that I can think of is I think it's the Nothing 2 from the company called Nothing, which they've done earbuds and they've done a prior phone, but it has some interesting stuff that he might like, and I think the price is like 500-ish.
Wow.
But they go for software experience, so it's not like super top tier. It's more mid range and like the spec stuff. But if you look for like they're more worried about like how snappy the overall like very elementary OS almost kind of in their approach.
Gotcha.
It's like they're more concerned about making that snappy kind of experience with it. So definitely,
So if
probably
you're
not
wanting
a
a snappy phone that you're not rooting and roaming because you're going to mess with their experience, but something within a budget as well, that's a line to go down, because I know one of the downsides of some of those budget phones is because they're typically working with less RAM, not as great CPUs, that experience can be lackluster at best and downright hard to use at worst. So that's interesting to see that there's a line that really tailors the OS on their phones to the hardware that they're able to put in it and still give it to you at a pretty good price.
Yeah, as well, kind of to go along with Ryan's portion of stuff, where he recently reviewed the Fairphone 4 5G. God, man, I'm trying to remember some of these naming conventions. I really liked the review and I like his take on it and all that stuff, and seeing Ryan actually put a live sim from his current, ironically Google phone.
Though it is not running straight Google, so there is that.
Well, yeah, the Fairphone isn't.
Well, neither was his Pixel that he was showing. It was currently running, I can't remember what it was, but it was something that...
it might have been graphene.
It was currently graphene, and he was having some struggles with Graphene OS. I've never run graphene myself. I'm running Lineage currently. I have run EOS, but it's been a little while since I have, and I didn't think it was available for my phone at the time that I was doing some rooting and ROMing. EOS does have some amazing features. Even if you're not picking up a Fairphone, you're maybe picking up an older phone that you're going to root and ROM. If EOS is available for it, definitely think about adding that one to it.
Because I had been looking at phones kind of on and off sporadically for like the last couple of months. Because everyone knows I like weird tech and just in general. So I was looking at like the Planet Cosmo Communicator from Planet Computer. I was looking at the Titan from Unihertz. I was looking at trying to think of some of the other oddball phones I was looking at. I was looking at like phones with keyboards and stuff, like very Droid 4 style kind of, just because
Wow.
I'm a BlackBerry guy. Like I've always I'm live or die by the keyboard, and I hate virtual keyboards to no end, no tactile feedback, etc. Like I can go on and on about that. But the thing I liked about some of those specific phones was that, I want to see if I can actually live and have these as like consumer ready Ubuntu touch phones. And the Fairphone was interesting to me because it was A, repairable, B, you could, root and ROM and do all the other things to it. It does ship with EOS, which I do like, but it was also according to the UbiPorts phone selector, supported stuff, it is a consumer ready device. And that to me was really interesting because as far as phones and stuff, I'm pretty low key as far as like what I need from a phone. It's like, can I access my bank and can I access like a few apps? And that's realistically all I need. Yeah. 90% of the stuff I can do from a web browser, because I'm not going to lie, 90% of the time I prefer the web browser experience over the mobile experience 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so yeah, it's definitely interesting as far as the tech and stuff in that regard, though.
I look forward to, as you're using it longer, because this just showed up, you just started using it, to see what that long-term role is for you. Does it start to slow down more? Does the hardware burn out pretty quickly? That's something that I'm curious. If it works really well, maybe our next phones will be TLC phones.
What I will say is the one thing TCL.
Not the band, not the band, not the band.
I guess Wendy does it.
Check out my phone. It's chasing waterfalls.
Let me go get you the green scouring pad so you can say, "Don't give me no scrubs."
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Oh my god.
I will say it was interesting going back to an Android 10 phone, because I was using my old Sonom XP880 or 800, whatever.
One of those numbers.
The big bulky like utilitarian like first responder phone that I had. But that's only got 4 gigs of RAM on it, and running Android 10 was that was an experience. One I would prefer not to repeat. I mean, it was functional. I can't say I couldn't do what I needed to, but like just there's a certain level where it's like, okay, like you can do it. Come on, it's kind of like using like an old like, it's like using like a Chromebook almost to me, where it was like I can do it. It's just it doesn't feel great.
It's not an enjoyable experience. It's not something you wanted to stay working with long term. It was how fast can I find something that fits in my budget, that fits what I need, and get off of this device.
Yes, it's a great backup phone in case something happens, because it's like it is about as a tank built as you can get. But like spec, nah, I wouldn't go with that.
Not fun.
Speaking of specs and all that stuff, though, seems like certain specs are not being met by what people are telling you, Wendy.
Yeah, it has been a real struggle the last couple weeks with my local internet service provider. So I had jumped from the plan that I was on, a plan that they weren't actually offering, which, if I remember correctly, was 20 down and 5 up. And I was paying quite a bit of money for this plan, and internet speed slowed, whole long story. Got on the phone with them. They say, hey, we can jump you up. Not going to be that much more. I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Because at this time, I was knowing that I was going to be starting doing video editing. Not just for Linux Out Loud, but for quite a few other shows on the network as well. So those faster speeds were going to make a huge difference. that first couple weeks, oh my gosh, everything was running so smooth. Uploads were happening fantastically, but these audio files were taking forever, absolutely forever to upload. And I'm now like an hour and 40 minutes into this happening, and I know it's getting close, and I call the internet company. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? She did some different stuff back and forth, and I was like, well, maybe it'll work faster now. Maybe it'll work better. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm about to test it, because at that time, everything was done. I had the files all put together, things ready to send to Michael for DL so that show could go up. And this was also a really large file. So that file that I sent to Michael was probably close to 5 gigs, 4.7 gigs, pretty big. And I'm supposed to be on a 50 by 10 plan. So 50 down, 10 up. I start uploading this file, and once again, it is taking forever. It's taking forever to upload. So I call her back up again, customer service. They are thankfully have 24-hour customer service, and I'm like, no, I'm still having extremely slow internet speeds, and this isn't working. So she's like, okay, I will send this up the line to my manager and such. That file didn't finish uploading to Michael until like, I don't know, maybe 1, 2 in the morning. Like it ran for a long flipping time. It ran for a long time. Text message from tech support, and they wanted me to, get this, they wanted me to reset my router. Okay. I don't want to reset my router. I've got lots of devices in this house. All of the kids have their own devices, media streaming, all kinds of stuff. I do not want to reset the router. One thing I don't like about this company is my internet service is tacked to the MAC address on my router. So I can't just pull the cord out of the back of the router, pop it into my desktop, and see if that fixes things. So I send a message back to customer service, and I'm like, before we reset the router, let's do a bypass. Let's connect it to my desktop. Let's see what's going on. And I was actually getting pretty decent speeds on the speed tests with them. So I wasn't really thinking that it was an issue in there. So did the bypass, ran the speed test, and yeah, it's looking pretty dang close to what it was before on my router. That's what I thought. It's not my router. And she's like, yeah, your speeds are actually looking pretty good. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, they are there, but they're not good in the real world. And she's like, what do you mean in the real world? And I'm like, okay, I've got to send this file to this client. It's large, and it's dropping me down between less than 1 to about 3 megabits per second when I'm supposed to be pulling 10. So this file is taking forever with an average speed of 1.5 megabits per second. Do you know how long it takes to upload an almost 5 flippin' gig file when it's running at 1.5 megabits per second on average? It takes forever, and it makes me really frustrated, if you can't tell. So
it's only like, 4.5, 5 hours to upload it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, no big deal. Who needs a weekend? I don't. So as I'm telling her this, she's like, oh yeah, that file is way bigger than your 50 megabit plan. And so basically she was telling me that they were throttling me back because the file size was so much larger than the plan that I had. I can't get a larger plan from them. I tried to get a larger plan from them, and based on the tower and everything else going on, the tech told me that I shouldn't have had the plan that I was on, that 50 by 10. So she told me, no, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening. It's going to take you forever to upload files. Congratulations and good luck. And I was livid. Now what am I supposed to do? And I started looking into other internet service providers all around. And unfortunately, my current local ISP, this is the best that I can get. They are the fastest, they are the cheapest for what I can get in my local area. Now you have to keep in mind that I live in the country. I also live in Idaho that is covered in volcanic rock. Like Idaho, big chunk of the West, is just one big flippin' lava rock or granite. So burying line and getting it to people is not the easiest thing to do in a lot of cases as well. Paying $115 a month for 15 by 10 and not actually getting that 10 megabits up when I need it, which of course I'm not expecting to get the full 10 all the time, but if it was running at 7 megabits per second, I would have been happy. I would have been I'm totally happy. But no. And checking my ISP's website, they're like, we don't throttle. Yeah, words there. So I contacted Bill because Bill is the network guy for networks. And I was like, is this okay for them to do? Is this something that's within bounds? And he's like, yeah, it's something that they can do. And when I'm thinking about it, yeah, it's definitely something that they're doing because these towers are very easily congested. It's a line of sight kind of internet service issue thing. And so if I'm using all of my bandwidth on this one upload, then potentially we're pulling too much. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure all of that works, but they're throttling. And my only other option is to go with Starlink. Only other option, and I've been putting this off for a long time. I've been thinking about it, but putting it off for a long time because of that initial hardware cost. One of the biggest downsides about Starlink is you have to use their initial router. It doesn't have an Ethernet cable. Like, who in the heck does not put an Ethernet jack on a flippin' Wi-Fi router? Yeah, I've got some complaints there too. So I have to initially do the setup. Then from there, once I have an account, I can go ahead and order the Ethernet adapter and then hook it up to my other Wi-Fi and have Ethernet because I'm not running everything off Wi-Fi. I'm doing my best not to run everything off Wi-Fi. On the upside, Starlink has estimated speeds on their map now for your area. So it's going to be $120 a month for me, and I should be getting download speeds between 44 and 134 megabits per second. Well within range of what I've had and way faster than what I've had. And their upload speed is supposed to be between 9 and 17 megabits per second. So currently what I'm paying for with potentially faster with a latency of 44 to 60 milliseconds. So with what I've got right now, I'm going to be paying $5 more and having so much better speeds in general. It just has to get installed. So we're recording this on September 27th. You will be getting this show on October 11th. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a 2-week gap there. So by the time we get together next, it'll be installed for roughly a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. By the time that I'm able to talk to you again, I know that was an incredibly long internet hardware issue story. But that's where we are. We're installing Starlink.
I was going to say, because you've talked about getting Starlink for, at least a year that I can remember off the top of my head. Like when it became more widely available. That is a design problem. It's like, we don't need no stinking wires. It's like, now we kind of do. That delay range is actually not bad at all, considering that's what most gamers are going to end it. Like, that's in gamer latency territory there. So that's not something that I would really complain about as far as the latency either. And that while there is a bigger gap in your, I guess you could say, range of what your base and what your top is, it's still better. Your base is almost as close as to what your current tap out is. So it doesn't really matter. And so you have a potentially higher threshold for better speeds for $5 a month. I was like, it's unfortunately some, annoying hardware work that you have to do to get it there, but it's almost the headache, and the extra $5 a month is probably worth it in the long run.
It's definitely going to be worth it. And this is really the push that I needed in order to go ahead and do that. I was trying to stick with local ISPs for one. I didn't want to go ahead and do that large hardware purchase. It's one of the downsides of going with Starlink, is having to put that investment into the hardware up front. But really it comes down to, I don't have any other choice. If I want to continue video editing for the network, I need another solution in order to be able to do that and have a life instead of just babysitting my system, waiting for things to upload. And as you know, like, my office is also my bedroom, and that means my computer is sometimes running all night long in here as I'm waiting for stuff to upload. I love my computer system, but it is a flippin' heater, and I don't want it on in here all of the time. Like, the room gets hot enough while I'm working and doing things and stuff. I don't want that additional heat output. And like I said, I would like to have a life. Would like to be able to finish all my uploads, finish all my processing, and get back to it. And it's not just for the network that I'm doing videos now. I'm also doing some for the team so that they can be working on different coding things or that kind of stuff when we're not together. Hey, here's some things to do. This is how this works. Now go run and play with it, and doing that in a video fashion. So we'll see how it goes. I will be talking to you about what the rest of the install looks like. And I did find something on Thingiverse to help. So this is actually going to be going in the wall. So the cable passes through here, and it's got this handy dandy little cap so you can seal it all up, make it work. I will share a link to this thing on Thingiverse that I've printed. I did print it out of PETG because it will be seeing the sun, and so it does have to hold up to UV light. But this should make the cable pass through the wall a heck of a lot better, and then be able to seal this, and if we need to move it, change things around, then we can break this loose instead of everything else, or just the wire as it's attached inside the wall. So that's what I'm doing. That's where it'll be, and I will fill you in more as we get there. I'm not the only one who has failing going on, but thankfully yours is not your internet provider. You've just used the SD card in your Steamdeck way too much.
Yeah, well, when you gotta hold on, I'll tell you in 1 second. Library, Steam, how big are you currently? Last I looked, it was 1,113 games.
Wow. Holy wow.
So,
wow.
The SD card I had was from when I originally bought the Steam Deck. So we're talking April 2022, give or take, or in September of 2023, almost October by the time this comes out. So when you're writing 40, 50 gig games and deleting them to make space, and then downloading other games that are another 40, 50 gigs, and then some are even like, there's one that I have on my main SSD that is 94 gigs for a game. So it's just one of those read, write, all that constant read, writing and deleting and, making space and shifting stuff around. And sometimes I'll download a game, I'll play a little bit of it, and it's like, I really don't want this on here. And it's like, because I very much use the Steam Deck as a console. So like, that's just my mentality. Unfortunately, when you don't remember that SD cards have a very limited read-write life, especially with games and files that large, it was time to buy a new one, because I rebooted the Steam Deck because there was an update for Steam OS, and I only run on the stable channel as far as like the base OS. I don't run on the beta channels for but the only thing I use that's beta-esque is either Proton GE, or I use Proton Experimental. Like, that's as far as I go with like the experimental stuff. So I rebooted it, applied the update, and Steam only detected like 14 of the 47 games I had installed, and I was like, what's going on here? So I went through the whole rigmarole of like, okay, I went on the Steam Deck, went to desktop mode, and I looked at it, and it's like, I can still access the card. I can still see the data on the card. And I'm like, okay, so this is probably a permissions issue. Well, I tried changing permissions. Doesn't change permissions. I've tried drag and drop. I have tried basically every single thing that you would normally do, ch own, ch mod, all the stuff you would normally do to change permissions on a external drive, because for some reason the ownership changed to root or whatever. None of them worked. And I've tried it on the Steam Deck. I've tried it on my tablet PC that I have that also runs Linux, or it's just like nothing would allow me to change the read write on it at all. Didn't matter if, and it showed up under owner or root for that particular card. So like I owned it, I had all the permissions for it, and it just wouldn't work. So, and for those that are going to be like, oh, is, you know, the adapters usually have like the put in read write mode only kind of stuff on the micro SD card adapters for like to make them full SD cards. This is using micro SD as micro SD, so it wouldn't because the tablet has a SD card reader that is very much in the vein of a cell phone one. So you have to poke at it and unplug it and all that crap. Every single one would not work. I don't know why. After about an hour of it, I was just like, I just don't care. I'm like, so there's going to be two things but that are going to be going on with the Steam Deck. I'm going to be upgrading the internal SSD again. Right now, I do have a 512 that I installed like a month or so after I had the Steam Deck, which the prices on those at that time they're not expensive, but they weren't cheap. It was like $50 for it. But you're talking like $1 a gig almost, which not ideal for what games cost as far as storage space. So I'll be upgrading that, but I also got a new SD card, and because of that, I'm like, well, I'm going to see where the Steam Deck sits currently with games, and I'm going to be looking at content and see how that goes, because I'm going to be looking at like, oh, how well does this play like JRPGs? How well does this play? Like, I'm picking genres of games. I mean, when you got, 1,200 something games at this point in my library. And do note that's not adding like all the Epic and GOG and all that crap. Like my library makes me cry every time I fire it up. Last I looked, according to Heroic, there were 578 games between GOG, Epic, and Amazon, on top of the 1,100 something. On top of the 1,100 something that I have on Steam.
So you're close to 2,000 games then.
Yes.
Oh, and then we've got all this stuff that you're over 2,000 games.
Yes. Whatever the question, the answer is going to be yes. So I'm looking at genres and testing genres on the Steam Deck and see how well they do. So I'm doing, like right now I'm doing JRPGs. So like I'm doing like Persona 5. I'm doing I just got done recording video for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is like one of the more graphically demanding games on it. And these are all just like out of the box, kind of like, I'm not tweaking them, I'm not playing around with them, but I'm trying different categories within Steam. So like, are they playable, unsupported, supported, all that stuff. Like, I'm just trying to see out of my entire library. I think I have 50 games installed right now on the SD and the internal, and that's all JRPGs. These are those super long, like 30 to 50 hour games that take forever to play. I'm not playing them all. This is just, I'm playing them for like an hour just to see like how the Steam Deck handles stuff, because I got kind of a little irked when I hear, oh well, the Steam Deck can't handle AAA games now, and it's like, well, it was really never meant to handle AAA games. Maybe at the time of the hardware was being developed, but anyway, enough with the Steam Deck talk, because I don't want to bore Wendy to death.
I don't know. I bored you to death with my internet talk. That was one heck of a story.
We all have our stuff that we care about. We don't. Though I do have a game recommendation, and actually I sent that to you, Wendy. It was that World War II one.
Oh, okay, cool. I haven't got to share it with Magneto yet because he's out of state. Yeah,
he's gone. I don't remember the name of the game, so I can't even make the recommendation. The game recommendation, because you're not going to get away from this show without a game recommendation from me, we should be well aware of this, is actually similar to the one that I pointed out to you off show, which was IS Defense. This one is similar in regard, but it's all authentic World War II stuff. And it is Beach Invasion 1945 Pacific. So it's just that. Defend from planes, trains, and automobiles, and boats, and everything in between. It has a demo. I don't know how it plays on Linux. If you want to try and have like kind of basically like a turret defense game, like that's the best way to explain it. This is in a World War II setting or a World War II vibe. This is definitely one of those kind of games, and it does have a demo, so it's free to try at least. And I don't think the price is like super expensive anyway. Oh no, it hasn't even come out yet. I forgot. That's why the demo.
It's still early days.
Yeah, Q4. Supposedly this year.
But if the demo works just fine, I can see this being a game that Magneto definitely wants to pick up. So we'll see.
Not that I would ever, poke at game recommendations your way, Wendy.
No, never. Not at all.
Just like Nate would never, ever not show up for the show.
Right? He's always here. He's here in spirit.
You're going to want to edit this part out. But what's also in spirit, Wendy, is you being evil. You're very, very sinister.
So sinister. I mean, I don't even have the red lights on. I'm actually wearing like brighter makeup today. I don't know where the sinister's coming from. It's so nice.
You're defaultly sinister.
Magneto might agree.
The guy who breaks technology just by being handed it to him or by anywhere near in association with it.
Yeah, that's the man I'm married to. Have been for 18 years. Yeah.
I do find the irony in this, though. You have a person who's a technologist, essentially you, with a guy who breaks technology.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So here, I got one question, though. Who breaks more of the tech, him or the kids?
Definitely him. Yeah, definitely him.
So out of 4 kids, Magneto, I'm just saying, when you break more tech than the children, it might not be the tech that's the problem. Now it's your turn to toss in your 2 cents on today's topic. Hit the discourse forum or drop us a line under this video or use the contact form by visiting tuxdigital.com/contact. If you'd like to hang out with us on our preferred social media platforms, see the links at the bottom of the show description. And you can find other great shows like Fit and Fuel, Destination Linux, and Linux Saloon, and much more at tuxdigital.com. Show off your love for your favorite podcasts and shows by visiting the Tux Digital merch store. Grab yourself some awesome swag like the Gamer-Centric I Pause My Game to Be Here shirt. Do it every week. Or join hashtag Team Wendy with some sinister Wendy swag. She's really actually sinisterly evil. As always, we thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time with another awesome episode of Linux Out Loud. Until then, keep the banner friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it.
As a side note, I've decided what my Halloween costume is going to be. I'm going as a female version of the devil from Pick of Destiny.
I would say I'm shocked, but I'm really not.